Hello, please view timestamps in the video descriptions, thank you, and let's get started. Is my stimulus check taxable income? Will it reduce my tax return? Burning questions about the second COVID-19 stimulus. By Andrew Keshner. No, you don't need to pay back your stimulus check. US President Donald Trump departs after speaking during the daily briefing on the novel coronavirus, which causes COVID-19. The second round of direct checks authorized in the almost $900 billion coronavirus relief package are not a carbon copy of the first checks, starting with the halved, $600 payout size. But many rules about stimulus checks 2.0 remain the same, and that means some theories about the government money that were untrue in the spring are just as untrue now. Those are canards like some supposed obligation to pay back the money, wrong, or the capacity of some random cold caller to get your money quicker, that's a scam. Federal regulators are already trying to prevent possible confusion. Congress passed the relief bill on Monday, and it awaits President Donald Trump gave in to his misgivings over the relatively modest sign of the stimulus, among other concerns. And on Sunday signed the massive pandemic aid bill, averting a government shutdown in the process. But the Federal Trade Commission put out a reminder on Tuesday that nobody will ever call you asking for money to quicken your access to the cash. At the same time, the new set of stimulus checks do have some new rules for certain scenarios, like for people who are behind on child support or married to a non-citizen. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said Monday these economic impact payments could start arriving in bank accounts next week. Before that money hits your bank account, here's a brush up on old myths to ignore and new ones to avoid. I'll have to pay back this money. No, you do not. It's yours to keep, said Lauren Saunders, Associate Director of the National Consumer Law Center. Some of the bill summaries note the stimulus is an advance on your 2020 tax credit, but consumers shouldn't think of the credit like an advance that's due back later. The income thresholds are the same, supplying the full payment $600 per adult and $600 per qualifying child to individuals with adjusted gross incomes below $75,000 per year and married couples filing jointly with adjusted gross incomes under $150,000 per year. The Internal Revenue Service will look at a household's 2019 returns to determine eligibility. These were the ones people had to file by July 15th, or October 15th if they applied for an extension. The payments also diminish at the same rate for people making above the income threshold, $5 for every $100 on top of the threshold. But the payments gradually come to a halt at a lower income level this time around. That's because there's less money per check, so it runs out sooner when using the same phase-out formula as before. Now, the payments end completely for single filers making $87,000 per year and above, and it ends for married couples worth $174,000 per year and above. With the $1,200 checks, the payments ended at annual incomes of $99,000 for individuals and $198,000 for couples. The stimulus check is taxable income. Again, no. The stimulus check you receive will not factor into your income tax liability. That's a point the House Ways and Means Committee noted in its rundown Monday on the new round of checks. And because stimulus checks don't count as taxable income, they don't influence, offset or factor into the size of your refund. While stimulus checks don't count as taxable income, unemployment benefit money does count when the IRS tallies up a person's income tax bill, according to April Walker, lead manager for tax practice and ethics at the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. The new relief package authorized supplemental $300 weekly unemployment insurance going into mid-March. One peril is a nasty tax bill waiting for people who didn't know to withhold money for income tax when receiving their weekly payouts, experts say. 37% of people didn't know jobless benefits were taxable income, according to a June survey from Jackson Hewitt, the national tax preparation chain. Just over half of the 1,000 people surveyed, 51%, didn't know they had to ask for withholdings on their benefits. My stimulus check will eat into my IRS refund. Nope. The stimulus check you receive now won't eat into your refund later. It also won't get chipped away with a default on student loans, back taxes or others' debts, Saunders said. When the first stimulus checks hit accounts, the money was supposed to help families feed themselves, but with an initial lack of protections, the money actually fed some debt collectors. This time, debt collectors will not be able to garnish payment, Saunders said. Though there were all sorts of financial obligations and delinquencies barred from dipping into stimulus checks, one exception was past debts on owed child support. In the second round of stimulus checks, people behind on child support will not have those debts skimmed off the top. Some of those debts were very old, and the children supposed to be supported had grown up and gone on with their lives, Saunders said. I can speed up the payment process. For many people who are hurting and feeling like they are trying to financially survive day to day, the money can't come soon enough. But don't let that push you into scam. Government officials will never call you, text you or hit you up on social media offering to get you your stimulus money in exchange for money up front. The Federal Trade Commission reminded consumers Tuesday. Anyone who makes that kind of offer is trying to con you, the agency said. There's no such thing as getting your money early, or faster. Anyone who says they can hook you up now, or soon, is both lying and a scammer, the Consumer Protection Agency added. In general, government impostor have cost consumers more than $5 million, according to an FTC database tracking the consumer complaints it's received during the pandemic. After the bill is signed, the IRS will start issuing payments early next week and into January 2021, according to the House Ways and Means Committee. When available, electronic direct deposit will be used in place of mailing a paper check, the committee added. It's now or never to get the stimulus. Not necessarily. Remember, the direct payments are technically an advance credit on the taxes you will file early next year for your 2020 earnings. If a person's 2019 earnings surpass the income caps but then they had a rough 2020, they can get the stimulus payment after filing their taxes. If someone still earned over the income caps, they still will not receive a check. The IRS's 1040 for the upcoming tax season will include a line where taxpayers can claim their recovery rebate credit. The IRS released the revamped 1040 earlier this month. People who did not file taxes likely because they made too little money had until November 21 to submit their bank account information via the non-filer portal and get their stimulus check this year. Saunders noted that people who didn't make this deadline can still get their first stimulus check and the upcoming $600 check by filing an income tax return next year. There's one catch on getting this year's direct checks during next year's tax season. The amounts will be lumped into a taxpayer's general income tax refund, the Ways and Means Committee noted. Because of that, the money will be subject to the garnishment and offset rules that generally apply to federal income tax refunds. The IRS will reduce refunds on obligations such as past due child support, debts owed to other federal government agencies and state income tax bills. My immigration status will interfere with stimulus. Not necessarily. Like the first round of stimulus checks, the second round goes to people with Social Security numbers. In the specific context of these direct checks, that's U.S. citizens and green card holders, according to Alan Orr, president-elect of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. But in the CARES Act, citizens and green card holders married to spouses who were not documented did not get the $1,200 stimulus check, nor did they get the $500 apiece for their citizen children. The decision launched lawsuits from people who said they were being deprived of badly needed money just because of who they happened to love and marry. The new bill addresses the issue of mixed-status marriages. Now, the Social Security card holder will get the $600 direct payment, as will any children who have a Social Security number, Orr said. The bill also has a retroactivity clause. That means the Social Security card holder who previously missed out on the $1,200 payment and eligible children who missed out on $500 will be eligible for it, according to Orr. The provision was an attempt to right a past wrong, Orr said. Last week, Senator Marco Rubio, a Republican from Florida, made the same point. Fixing the provision that denied some eligible American citizens from receiving a federal stimulus check under the CARES Act was an oversight that needed correction, he said in a statement. No American should have been blocked from receiving federal assistance during a global pandemic because of who they married. $600 stimulus checks are on the way, here's what to expect next. By Andrew Keshner. The Treasury and IRS announcements make a sidelong reference to the fight for $2,000 direct checks. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said that direct deposits will begin Tuesday night. Now that President Donald Trump has signed a $900 billion relief package authorizing a new round of direct payments, the new question for many is when they will receive the $600 checks. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said late Tuesday that direct deposits will begin tonight, and paper checks will start being mailed Wednesday. The Internal Revenue Service will distribute the $600 checks for every eligible man, woman and child, and people can check the website irs.gov Get My Payment to see the status of their payment. The portal is temporarily offline, but starting later this week, people can start logging onto it to find out the status of their money, a Treasury announcement said. The same announcement makes a sidelong reference to the ongoing fight for $2,000 direct checks instead of the incoming $600 payments. This second round of payments will be distributed automatically, with no action required for eligible individuals. If additional legislation is enacted to provide for an increased amount, economic impact payments that have been issued will be topped up as quickly as possible, the announcement said. The Senate adjourned Tuesday without taking up a bill that passed the House on Monday boosting the payments to $2,000. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell hinted he might tie the bigger checks to other issues, like a repeal of liability protections for social media platforms. A growing number of Senate Republicans say they support $2,000 direct checks, including Senator Marco Rubio of Florida and Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. Two Georgia lawmakers running for re-election in the January 5 runoff that will decide the balance of the Senate. when the IRS sent out more than 160 million payments totaling more than $270 billion in the first round of stimulus payments. The agency invented the proverbial wheel that will make distribution roll quickly this time, said Pete Sepp, the president of the National Taxpayers Union, a right-leaning think tank. The infrastructure has been set up for this distribution method and has been tested already, he said. The IRS said Tuesday night that most people would be getting their payments via direct deposit. People who were paid in the first batch of $1,200 checks and don't get their $600 check via direct deposit will generally receive a check or, in some instances, a debit card, the IRS added. Some people who received a paper check last time might receive a debit card this time, and some people who received a debit card last time may receive a paper check, the IRS said. Meanwhile, for Social Security and other beneficiaries who received the first round of payments via Direct Express, they will receive this second payment the same way, the agency said. The payments are also automatic to anyone who signed up for the first round of checks by using the IRS non-filer tool. The IRS announcement also tried to head off confusion after some people over the summer tossed their $1,200 loaded onto debit cards, thinking the cards were junk mail. The prepaid cards will come in white envelopes that prominently displays the U.S. Department of the Treasury seal, the IRS said. The card will bear the Visa name on the front and the name of the issuing bank, Meta Bank, will be on the card's back. Information included with the card will explain that this is your economic impact payment. There's more information on the prepaid cards here. When congressional leaders announced a deal on December 20th, Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said the next day on CNBC that people are going to see this money at the beginning of next week. It's very fast. But then Trump suggested he might not sign the bill, calling for $2,000 checks instead. He ultimately put his signature on the bill Sunday night. Trump signed the bill, which devotes $166 billion to direct payments, on Sunday. Most of the rules surrounding the first $1,200 checks apply to the second round of $600 checks. The one difference is that the payment for child dependents has increased to $600 from $500. I'm lucky to get by on $75,000 a year. The $600 stimulus program doesn't sound reasonable to me. Why am I left out? By Quentin Fottrell. Be grateful that you have a home and family to go home to tonight. Dear Moneyist. Last year, I made over $75,000 and reported that amount in my taxes for 2019. I realize that for millions of people around the world, $75,000 is a lot of money. In my town, I'm lucky to get by on $75,000 a year. I still have a job. But if I did lose my job due to the pandemic but earned over $75,000 in adjusted gross income last year, that means I would not get any stimulus money. How can they go off of last year's numbers when so many lives were affected this year? That doesn't sound ethical or reasonable to me. Puzzled in Boston. Dear Puzzled. I remember a fateful day in elementary school when a student was called out of class early, and another boy asked the teacher, "Miss, how come he isn't getting any homework and we have to do our homework? That's not fair." The teacher told the class, "Be grateful that you have a home and family to go home to tonight." The boy's parents were in a serious car accident. They survived, but barely. Your letter brings to mind this grumpy student and the boy who was called out of class. Of course, we must question the system and call out inequality where we believe it exists. As the government dishes out the second round of economic impact payments, EIPs, many people will have a healthy family to return to, and homes and financial security. While others will be teetering on the edge. You would get a check if you lost your job this year, filed your taxes last year and did not earn more than $75,000. But you are correct, you would not receive the check this year. It's a blunt instrument. For those people who did not file their 2019 taxes by the time the first $2.2 trillion stimulus program was announced last March, the government used 2018 tax returns. The Internal Revenue Service does not have the manpower to individually audit the more than 160 million Americans who are likely to qualify for a stimulus check. The IRS is a convenient source of data on the incomes of millions of Americans and, if people's circumstances have deteriorated over the past 12 months, they will receive a stimulus payment in their 2020 tax return next year. People who did not receive a check this year, or who only received a small amount and believe their income will fall below the required threshold for checks next year, could still receive a stimulus payment next year. The EIP is technically an advance payment of a tax credit on your 2020 return. The IRS is using 2019 tax returns to gauge people's incomes. 2018 tax returns are used as a Plan B. The latest $900 billion stimulus program set to distribute checks of $600. Half the amount allocated in the first round of stimulus payments is a bridge to put food on the table for millions of people and help keep the economy afloat until the vaccination rates near herd immunity, according to Richard Moody, chief economist at Regions Financial. The pace of economic growth has clearly slowed, the questions now being the extent to which this is the case and how long this slowdown will persist, Moody wrote in a note. Is it an artificial boost to a ailing economy? Yes. Is it a shot in the arm for millions of people who are one lost paycheck away from the street? Yes again. Will it work? Possibly. Maybe. Hopefully. It didn't seem reasonable to that boy in school that day, and it may not seem reasonable to you now. But for those who do not qualify for checks and are able to get by, there is a lot to be grateful for.